Well...
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you wherever you are, because it is a morning somewhere for February 26, 2024. My name is Burnie Burns, sitting right over here. I'm looking right at her. She's 75% hazelnut. Ashley Burns, how you doing, Ash?
I'm a huge percentage of the world's supply.
Yeah, I got hammered a little bit in the comments this week. First of all, we both got hammered because we covered a very sensitive topic, which was talking about how the Google AI was being kind of sort of racist. And we were thinking about, how do we approach this? How do we talk about this in the right way? And it turned out nobody got upset about us talking about that, but they got very upset about us talking about how potato chips are packaged in different countries.
Look, if you ever need to distract someone, distract them with food. It's a winning strategy. Look, I'm a basic girl. I just want regular, thin-cut, salted potato chips. In the U.S., the equivalent is Lay's Classic. That's my jam. I don't do a whole lot of added flavors for my crisps, for my chips. I just want the basics. The equivalent here is Walker's Ready Salted, or sometimes they're like Legendary Ready Salted or something. Anyway, and for whatever reason, the stores near here, they do not stock large bags of those. So whether that's a rural issue, whether this is a UK-wide issue, and these types of crisps simply do not get enough respect in the region, not sure what it is. Regardless, trust me, I've looked for these large sharing bags of crisps in my stores. I can't find them. I'm going to set, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set up whatever the equivalent is of a P.O. box, and everyone can send me salted crisps. I don't need the nice lime and coriander or chicken barbecue or anything like that. Those are lovely, but actually I find them a little bit too strongly flavored.
Prawn cocktail?
No, get it out of here.
I don't even understand what that is supposed to be. Is that supposed to be a shrimp cocktail flavored potato chip? Are shrimp cocktails, are they that common in the UK? Because I don't think I've ever run into anyone eating an actual prawn cocktail the entire time I've been here. Yet it's a common enough flavor, I suppose, that they wanted to make an entire chip based on it.
Can I tell you one of the weirdest crisp flavors that I've ever run into in my entire life? Baked potato flavored. Just going to let the irony sink in there that they had to add flavoring to a crisp to make it taste like a potato.
It's fully loaded. It's a fully loaded baked potato. Did it taste like a baked potato?
I mean, it tasted, it was fine. It was just so weird that no one sat and looked at that and were like, should we make potato flavored potatoes?
So while we're talking about P.O. boxes and things like that and things that are different in the UK, should also point out that post offices in the UK, at least in the part of the UK that we're in, because now I guess we have to qualify it this way, post offices are in just like candy shops, like little convenience stores. That's a post office in the UK. Yeah,
it's great. It's a special register in like a stationery / candy / newspaper shop. It's interesting, but I don't mind it at all. And also one of the big differences here is in the US, if you mail something USPS, it's like, oh God, here we go. You mail something Royal Mail here, no sweat. It gets there quick. It gets there safe. I've had packages that have been delivered via other, like UPS, which in the US would be very reliable. That here, it's like someone played a game of kickball with it and then dropped it in a shed.
While we're talking about the post office in the UK, Ash, we should probably mention that one of the biggest scandals in the UK in the last few years has been the post office scandal, where people literally had their lives ruined, and some people went to prison because of errors in the accounting software that these post offices that are in convenience stores, were using. And there were these major shortfalls, and people were accused of fraud and embezzlement and had their lives ruined. And then it came out later like, oh, no, yeah, that was just the software. Sorry about that, everybody.
Well, before we get too far away from consuming things and the delights thereof, I want to talk about something that you brought me from your last trip. And that is, it was meant to be kind of a silly souvenir, but it's turned out to be this amazing thing. It's like the best thing in my life right now. And it's a Buc-ee's cup.
Right. So when I was in Texas, I went to Buc-ee's, which is a gigantic road stop. I mean, it's almost like a shopping mall for snacks. And I knew Valentine's Day was coming up, and I had some stuff for Ashley, but I thought, Ashley, you love red stuff for some reason. And it would just, for whatever reason, if I see something that's red, especially if it's around Valentine's Day, it's perfect because there's so much red stuff and you love it. But I'll always pick up something if I see if it's red, or if there's a red version of an electronic thing that you want, I know that's the version to get. And they had a red insulated Buc-ee's cup with a gigantic Buc-ee's logo, which has this big dumb beaver on it. And I thought, I'll just get that because it's so completely Texas and so American, and I'll just bring that back and act like that's the Valentine's Day gift. But it turns out that's the Valentine's Day gift that you loved more than anything else.
It's been so great. So it's kind of an insulated mug for coffee, things like that. But it's also really good for iced beverages like sodas and things like that. It keeps the ice in it for ages, and my beverages are nice and tasty and chilly, or they're nice and warm and they stay that way. Anyway, it's been unexpectedly great. It's a really good size for me, and because it's not too big, it's not too small, it's easy to carry around. I don't know, this stupid cup, I'm in love with it. So I want to say thank you for that. That was a great gift.
My pleasure. You did not like my other joke gift, or joke purchase, I should say. I got my notification from Tesla that my Founders Edition Cybertruck is now ready to be ordered, because years ago I put down, I think, like $250 as a reservation on a Cybertruck when they announced it. And according to the articles I've been reading, it's been 4 years since they announced it. And I have a philosophy of never, ever pre-order software and always pre-order hardware, especially if there's like a little deposit, because my logic was you can always just sell it. Well, Ashley, it turns out, first of all, that I'm not going to be buying a Cybertruck. You'll be happy to know.
No, you are not going to be buying a Cybertruck.
But the bad news is, turns out I can't sell my reservation because they don't allow that. In fact, they had in their early sales agreements, when you went to purchase one, that if you flipped the vehicle, you had to pay Tesla $50,000.
What? For
flipping the vehicle and changing ownership. Yeah. And it actually was, I didn't catch on to this because I wasn't that interested in the Cybertruck by that point. But actually, a lot of people noticed it. They got really upset. It went away, went out of the agreement, and then it went back into the agreement later. So they have an anti-flipping penalty that you have to pay Tesla if you sell your vehicle after you buy it.
That's so weird. That's so weird. And yeah, honestly, the Cybertruck seems like a weird thing to do that with. Do you feel like that's going well? I don't feel like the Cybertruck is going well.
No, but then again, it's kind of hard to tell with Tesla because, like, you read about there's rusting and stuff, but I haven't seen any pictures of it. They're just saying that theoretically it can rust and they use the wrong stainless steel. This, that, the other thing everyone was talking about when they threw the baseball or whatever and they shattered the unshatterable windows. But I got to say, too, my opinion of Tesla is down from what it has been historically. But I do have to recognize the fact that Tesla gets an incredible amount of negative press. Like, every time a Tesla gets in an accident, it seems like it's national news. If a Tesla Model S gets in a car accident, you know, man, like, people can talk to you on the street. They can tell you like how many liters of water it takes to put out a Tesla fire, but they don't know how many liters of water it takes to put out a normal petrol car. It almost feels like this anti-environmentalist lobbying that everyone is kind of latching onto, or it might even be just, you know, the automakers trying to push the new person out. But it's incredible the amount of negative press that Tesla gets all the time.
You know what I think it is, too, though, is I think it's a side effect of one of the reasons that you read so much about Tesla getting into crashes is because Tesla is one of the few companies that was or has been trying to push really hard on things like self-driving. And so the media is happy to latch onto that as a recognizable and fairly hip name to attach to any sort of controversy about self-driving. And that's where a lot of the accident reporting comes in, is like, oh, were they self-driving? The Tesla got in an accident. Were they self-driving? What was going on? And even if it's down to driver error, a lot of times it's couched in the discussion about self-driving and autonomous vehicles.
And I have to say, too, the whole self-driving thing on a Tesla, in my experience, is a complete and total lie. It is not. It is advanced cruise control is what it is. And I do have an older one. My Tesla is 10 years old at this point. I've always been really happy with it because you have to do almost no maintenance on EVs. You don't have to do oil changes. You basically just change tires and brake pads, and that's it. That being said, I know a lot of people that have bought Teslas in the last 5-7 years, and they have been miserable with the build quality of the car. I just never ran into any of that stuff.
Yeah, but it definitely happens. So it seems maybe a bit hit or miss. I can see why people use Tesla in the discussion, though. Remember, there was recently, I think it was a mob of people in San Francisco attacked and destroyed a self-driving vehicle, like one of those autonomous taxis.
Yeah, I'd like to. It's not autonomous, but the same thing with those Lime scooters, which was that model from 5 years ago where there was just free scooters laying on the sidewalks everywhere you would go. And especially in Austin, people had such a high rejection for them. They would just start chucking them into the river. And I think the same thing happened in San Francisco as well.
Yeah, I think
people were so mad at the scooters. They're like, we'll just destroy the environment now.
You know what, though, is they're really just continuing the grand tradition of San Francisco. From what I understand, a lot of the city is built on basically the wrecks of old ships, because people would get ships there for the gold rush or whatever, and then all the people would go off for the gold rush, leave the ships behind, and they just sort of decomposed over time. And so that became the foundation for a lot of where the city's built on. This might all be urban myth, honestly, but
what?
it's quite.
I've never heard this before.
Completely factual. It's all, the high rises are built on old ships, Bernie. And so we're just continuing the grand tradition of chucking a bunch of stuff in the water and then one day building on top of it, Bernie.
Listen to this. This is from the vintagenews.com. Much of downtown San Francisco was built on the landfill containing sunken ships abandoned at the time of the gold rush. Look at you.
Thanks.
There weren't railroads, automobiles, or airplanes during the gold rush of 1849 and 1850. The fastest way to get to the gold fields was to travel by boat, and they ended up in a landfill of old ships. That's crazy. I've never heard that before in my life.
Well, now you've learned something.
It's so crazy, too. You think the seismic activity in Northern California, and they've got an entire city sitting on a landfill. That's fucking wild. That's
maybe
wild.
Maybe the landfill, though, makes it just squishy enough that it softens the blow.
It just fits in the modern tale too. I hear that the expanding parts of Austin are all built on landfills filled with Teslas, so it'll be perfect in the future. We'll be able to tell those to our grandkids. Oh yeah, our house is built on old Cybertrucks.
Stable as, but it might rust. Speaking of though. Just abandoning things. Congratulations. There is a new lunar lander on the moon. The lunar lander Odysseus by Intuitive Machines has just become the first private aerospace landed spacecraft on the moon's surface. It launched last Thursday on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, and it was aiming for the South Pole, which everyone is on about now because they think they might find water. Your favorite thing, Bernie, water on the moon. Actually, your water thing is water on Mars, but there might be water in the moons and hiding in craters or something. Who knows? And so it's touched down successfully. It did tip over. Minor detail. It's down.
Oh, yeah, the tipping over.
It does have a couple of tools which are going to be interesting. It's got a laser retroflector array to help other spacecraft make their landings, and also a beacon.
Cool.
To provide geolocation data to landers, rovers, and things, so that they could maybe then visit the site. There's also a thing with these landers that I don't really understand. Maybe you have more knowledge of it than I do, or maybe we're all just clueless. And that is that these landers keep taking weird private company payloads. Remember, there was a lot of controversy with, I believe, the last one, the one that failed, because it was taking human remains to the moon. Do you remember hearing about that?
Well, I remember there was something about Native American religion. I agree with you. I think it was human remains that were on it as well. Some kind of ashes.
Yeah, this one is not carrying human remains, thank goodness. But it is carrying a bunch of other stuff. Like there's an art project by Jeff Koons containing 125 miniature moon sculptures. Like, why did this need to go to the moon? I mean, I guess, does the moon not know what it looks like?
It's not much weight, which is always the consideration. They do something light, and then it's something that they can use to, grab headlines, and that helps you get funding because people like these stories about, it's why they keep leaning into the thing that we made jokes about, which was, measuring asteroids in terms of weird animals and things like that. It's just something that gets people excited. And if people get excited, it makes it easier for them to get funding. That's what I think.
I will say that, do you remember, what year was it? When the Mars Curiosity rover made it to Mars and had the Twitter account going and everything? That was quite exciting. Yeah, and
there was a point in time when you would get the images that were coming back from the Mars rovers, and that was really cool to have those come in because I remember people would be at work and they would be loading them up like, here's today's image that they've released, and it was really cool because you would scan stuff and you were looking at a different planet. That's really cool, to be able to do that kind of thing.
Well, you're going to enjoy this lander then because it did send home some photos of selfies of itself with Earth.
Oh,
so that's
did it really?
Exciting. It did. We'll put those in the link dump because they're actually pretty cool.
Did it do any TikTok dances while it was up there or anything like that?
Well, it tipped over, so it's planking right now.
It's got its own energy drink now, Ashley. Look for it in stores. I'm looking at the Peregrine mission. What were the human remains on it? First ever private lunar lander is on its way to the moon after successfully blasting off from Florida. However, leaders of the Navajo Nation have criticized the launch because the lander is carrying some controversial cargo on its way to the lunar surface. Human remains. The rocket will orbit Earth several times. God, these articles, when you read articles on the fly now, it's just like they do so much to pad the article. It's like you're reading something by an 8th grader that was told they have to do 1,500 words. And so they hide information in it. Like some people are curious what was on the rover. The rover contains things that really excited people. It's like, just say what it fucking is, man. God,
maybe it's written by AI.
It might have been written by AI, but I really don't think so. I think it's written by people who just want to string you along as much as they possibly can. I just don't get it. Anyway, there was human remains on there, and Navajos were upset about it. So there you go.
One thing that I do want to make sure we talk a little bit about, because it's not as fun as something like the lunar lander, but we're probably going to feel the consequences of it a bit more directly, is streaming profits. Warner Brothers Discovery just announced that they made a full year profit on streaming in 2023, and that's a pretty huge deal.
That's great. And I know the tactics that they have been using to run that business have not been popular with a lot of people. And right. I know a lot of people are not going to be happy that they're actually profitable, utilizing those tactics.
Yeah, and then that's why I think it's important to keep an eye on this, is it does mean that in the same way that a lot of streamers looked at what Netflix was doing with their password crackdown, saw that it worked fine, and are now implementing their own, we may see more of these kinds of tactics from other streamers who are trying to turn a profit, because it was a pretty huge turnaround. So Warner Brothers Discovery, they announced they made $103 million in 2023, so full year streaming profit, and that's following nearly a $2.1 billion loss for 2022. And that does include things like probably write-downs for Batgirl or Batwoman, whatever. But it worked. So between all of the crazy things they did, managed to ditch $2 billion in debt and actually make a profit for the first time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see other streamers that are struggling to turn a profit look to this model for some ideas.
The name of the movie that you were looking for, Ashley, was Madam Bat. I have to say, too, what really shocked me in this whole thing was that after they announced that they were the first streaming service to become profitable for the year, they immediately went down in the market. Their stock was down 9 to 10%. It's really, really wild that would happen. It's, sometimes the market doesn't always reflect the economy or doesn't reflect the results. And this was a case that really didn't make any sense to me at all, because I don't think anyone was expecting Warner to come out and say that they were profitable after all of the shenanigans that they pulled this year. But they did it, and the market still punished them anyway. Really bizarre to me. Anyway, that does it for us, February 26, 2024. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.